A lot of leftists claim that the gender wage gap is a real thing that exists. It's a statistic that's been taken out of context for such a long time. It was debunked. It turned out that, well, women don't earn less than men when they are really doing the same job and putting in the same hours uh, across the board. That's not true. In fact, really what happens is that women want to take time off because they're either having children, they find their own family life to be more worthwhile than working in a professional setting, or something similar. Women don't end up taking jobs that typically pay more because they're either dangerous, or they're far from home, or there's some other reason why uh, a woman wouldn't earn as much as a man does. But none of it has to do with a woman's gender. It has everything to do with the kinds of opportunities that women feel comfortable taking. For example, a lot of fields in STEM, the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, the fields that utilize those disciplines, have a tendency historically to not have a lot of women. Not because women aren't being offered positions in these fields. In fact, women are being offered more positions in this field than they ever have in history because of things like affirmative action. But women are, so that's not true. That there's a wage gap that exists, that inherently exists, that separates women from what they're able to have access to the opportunities that they're able to have access to in the first world, in America. In fact, I think it was shown in the same statistic that for a man and a woman who are working the same job, the woman actually earns more than the man does. She actually brings home more money than he does. So, on average. So, that's a little funny. Something else that the statistical mention is that, well, one of the reasons why a woman wouldn't earn as much as a man is because she doesn't really advocate for herself as much when it comes time for promotions, when it comes time to ask for a raise. She's not willing to advocate as much for herself. And so the company, of course, is going to want to save as much money as they can, generally speaking. And so they don't offer a woman higher rates or higher anything. And so this idea that there's a patriarchy, or that there's a plot really against women to try to keep them from succeeding in America or any other westernized society where women have the right to vote, where they have all of the same legal privileges that a man has, to say that they're missing rights in this kind of world isn't reflected in the reality, in the real world context. And so looking at the left and looking at all of the policies that they want to push, particularly, one of the things that they say is they don't want the wall. They don't want to build a wall. They don't want us to have a wall because, and I quote Nancy Pelosi, she says that a wall would be immoral or amoral because she thinks that if America were to put up a wall for any reason, that wall would then become a sign of, anti-immigration, or of America trying to keep people out who, for whatever reason, aren't suitable because we hate immigrants or because we're inherently racist. In other words, the left likes to point everything as a matter of race. All they see in society are issues that need to be fixed, things that need to be dealt with. It doesn't matter if it's a real, actual issue of concern. The left has a knacky way of finding problems where no problem exists. It's like their superpower. They're great at creating problems in society. They're great at stirring people up and causing more division. Primarily because when you look at what the left has to offer in terms of sound policy, in terms of way of bringing America closer together, they don't have much. I mean, look at what AOC's supporting with the Green New Deal. Look at Elizabeth Warren or Kamala Harris, who's saying that we need to give African Americans reparations for things that happened to their ancestors, who these young people are so far removed from, generations upon generations upon generations. The Democrats run on a platform of giving away more money, taking away more people's rights. Like, they're in college campuses now. They've kind of relented a little bit. The college administrators, the activists, the teachers there who are left-leaning, who are socialist/communist, and they've instituted free speech zones. In other words, there are specific places, there are only specific places on a college campus, if you attend one of these universities, like one of them is in Kentucky, where you can only speak your mind if you're in a certain part of the college campus. Just like how if you're a smoker, you have to go to a specific zone to be able to smoke. This is the result of leftist gone amok, that whose reins aren't being brought in. This isn't even the left from 10, 15, 20 years ago. This left has a brand new face. It's the far left. This is what the far left is in America today. They're not free speech, which they would absolutely were 20 years ago. They don't believe in gun rights at all. They don't believe anyone should have a gun. They want to take your guns. You see that slow escalation. They want to keep pushing policies that give away the money of the people on all of these social programs. Oh, you went through this, you can have this. Oh, you went through this, you can have this. Let's get rid of everything. And so what we end up with are versions of the Green New Deal, where we have exorbitant spending packages. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wanted to rebuild every single building in the United States. Every single building in the United States. It's just not possible. We would absolutely bankrupt ourselves before we were able to rebuild every single building in the United States. And that's not even to mention the cow thing, or some of the other things that were in her policy, in her kind of list, that she got so much backlash for, that she had to come out and say that her office put up that they put up a draft or something to that effect. And when her bill went to the floor for the Green New Deal, nobody wanted to sign off on it, even the Democrats, because they were like, this is clearly a losing piece of paper. This is clearly a losing piece of legislation. I don't want to sign off on this. I don't want my name attached to farting cows. The left is gone. It's gone. It is gone. You have the far left, and anybody on the right they want to label far right, because they're trying to keep this public appearance that they're not radicals. But the one thing that I will say is that the center is gone. There is no center left. The people who were center left were like the Nancy Pelosi's and the Joe Bidens. But increasingly, you see it all kind of shifting over into that corner. And I think that what this means for society, and especially for cable news, is no one wants to go on these websites. No one wants to go to CNN. They just closed a division down. They closed their healthcare division. It looks like they're in the hole every single year. They're losing, I think it's $10 million. And so, here we go again. There's going to be another round of layoffs. They're going to keep pushing the exact same ideologies on their site that was the reason why which is the reason why they're losing everything. They're so fixated on this president. They're so into their conspiracy theories and into pushing false narratives. I did a story recently about the contributors who were going on to CNN, who used to go on to CNN, some of the ex-contributors, stories about, conservative contributors that used to appear on the platform. A lot of people got a lot of the contributors never got called back. Some of them got just let go. Others didn't get their contracts renewed. CNN is pushing everybody out who doesn't agree with their Trump derangement. And then they get mad that the stories that they publish or the rhetoric that they push turns out to be false. And they get even more frustrated that people stop tuning in. And that even when YouTube, Google, and Facebook try to make these networks like CNN authoritative news by pushing them to the top of the news feeds, they still tank. And so that tells you something. When you look at CNN, you look at the key demographic, the key demographic is leaving. They don't want to have anything to do with this platform. And for good reason. People are looking at CNN. They're looking at some of these other networks. And they're saying, I don't know that what I'm hearing here is true. I just don't trust these people. They've been wrong about Mueller, the Mueller report. And by the way, Mueller today released his statement in which he really didn't say anything new that we didn't already know from the Mueller report. He said we didn't have any evidence to prove that a crime was committed. And so we couldn't recommend anything for Trump's being indicted or impeached. We didn't find any wrongdoing with Trump. But then they also said, okay, well, we also, don't know that he obstructed justice. And then they also say, well, we also don't know. He also said that even if he couldn't indict the president. If he had the evidence, he couldn't have. Because it would have been William Barr's job to do that. And so a lot of this left-wing dying mainstream sources jump on that immediately. They pounce and they say, oh, Mueller reports that, he wouldn't have been able to do it, insinuating somehow that evidence is there for obstruction charges. They just won't give it up, and they know why. Because they're afraid of what he's going to do. They're afraid of the D class. They're afraid that he's going to start to unravel a lot of things that the deep state has been working on for so long. That's why they all attack him. That's why 90% of his news coverage has been so negative. They've called him every name in the book, and the man's still standing. And they're afraid. And that's why they're censoring on YouTube, why they're censoring on Twitter. That's why they're censoring on Instagram, why they're just depersoning so many people. It's because they're afraid, and they know that these messages are resonating. People are going to all of these people that are being deplatformed because they want to find real news. Because a lot of the people are starting to realize the left is evil. The left is absolutely evil. People who have no affiliation with politics at all. People who come from different walks of life, gamers, Notch, who was a game developer who created Minecraft, who was totally not political at all. In fact, was on the left side, which a lot of people tend to be. A lot of people tend to be on the left. He comes out and he makes a statement, and he says on his Twitter, he tweets, and he says, the left is evil. They're just evil. They have an agenda, and they're not afraid who they hurt to get whatever it is that they want. They want to secure power. They don't care if the borders of this country remain unprotected. They don't care if people starve, how many people have to die. They don't care about the influx of drugs, of fentanyl. In fact, they encourage it. You know why? Because the more drugs that flood into this country, the more homelessness, the more problems, the more poverty, the more drug addicts, the more issues that they have, the more causes they can now champion or say that they're going to champion. They want the whole country to be just like San Francisco, Seattle, these hellholes that have San Francisco as a poop patrol. They have an app where you can report human feces because they've actually had to hire a team to go around San Francisco and collect human feces because that's how bad their democracy has gotten. You think that's bad? Look at all the people who are fleeing California in general in droves. They're all leaving. The taxes are too high. The state is just in a terrible state. It's being overrun, overflood. The homeless population in California is astounding. But it's as a result of these socialist policies. People are looking around and saying, why are my taxes so high? I can't afford to live here. This once great place has been overrun. And they don't say that because they're racists. They say it because it's true. Yes, they'd be saying the same thing if they weren't Mexican. If they weren't Indian, they could be the same race. I'm telling you, they could just be white people who came in from, Italy. And just these and if they did the same thing, they'd feel the same way. But of course, the left doesn't want you to know that. For the left, everything has to be a real issue. Everything has to be a serious issue, and it has to be about evil people because they need to be the saviors in order for them to maintain power. And that's why they won't let Trump go. Trump represents to them they're taking away of their power. He represents their demise, the exposure of their corruption, and they're afraid of that. And that's why they're going through with the censorship. That's why they're going through with all of these kind of movements, all of these political maneuvers. It's why they haven't accepted the Mueller report for what it was. It's why no matter, Mueller could come out and say nothing happened. There's no There was absolutely no cause for obstruction. There's absolutely no cause for that he colluded with Russia, the president colluding. And they'd say, oh, Mueller, with bizarre statement, insinuates that there could possibly be a connection between, was Mueller paid off in order to influence the people and let them and kind of cue off the Russians. They don't care what it is. They've spent $40 million on the Mueller report. They're not going to stop. They're never going to stop because it's never going to be enough. And the only people who can stop this nonsense is the general public who didn't vote in 2018 during the midterms. You have to vote. Look, I am not a fan of the Republicans. I don't consider myself a Democrat. I don't consider myself a Republican. I don't consider myself a Green. I don't consider myself anything. I guess if I had to choose, I'd say I'm independent. I'm an individual who looks at things, who kind of says, this is my opinion on this. This is what makes the most sense to me. Don't follow party lines. However, that being said, the Republicans, I think, are also awful because they're nothing but kind of establishment Republicans, the same way that Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, and a lot of these other Democrats are establishment. They're bought and paid for. They're con artists. They're liars. But so are a lot of the Republicans. Look at your Andrew Ryan. Guy's a sleazebag. But so are a bunch of other Republicans. He's not the only one. And so, but I think that people need to vote in 2020 because if we don't get our hat in the ring and say, we disagree with this policy, we disagree with X policy or Y policy or this or that or the other thing, then there's not going to be a chance or an opportunity for us to stop this, for us to put people who colluded with, who are the actual people who colluded with each other to overturn a democratically elected president. We're not going to get a chance to put these people to try these people for their crimes. Treason in some cases, and in other cases, other crimes. The real obstruction of justice. There are all of these real issues. They're never going to come to light until the people sit down and say that this is a democracy. I need to vote. I need to become politically active, not because, for no other reason than a democracy requires its citizens to volunteer and to sacrifice for the democracy to work. When good people do nothing, evil prospers. It's not by the things that the evil people do. It's by the things that the good people don't do. There's always going to be evil people. There's always going to be a need for people to vote. There's always going to be a need for people to protest. Because that's just how humans are. They have different interests. They get corrupted. Things happen. And so we need to be there to say no. Set an example. Don't allow it to happen. Don't get lazy and bogged down by social media or television or entertainment or Netflix or this or that. Or I'm not saying that's what you do, right? What anybody does, but I'm saying a large portion of the country does, though. A large portion of the country gets bogged down in their own lives, couldn't care less about what happens to the country, and then they turn around and they wonder why the economy is in horrific shape, like it was under Obama, why there's so much corruption at the highest levels, and there's no accountability, why there's campaign fraud, why there's illegals pouring into our border. This is our fault because so many of us didn't vote. So many of us just watched the news and thought we were getting the correct answers. We just assumed that there wasn't a political bias in the news, or some of us did know that, but we didn't, really pay attention anyway because we had things going on in our own lives. But things aren't going to change unless we step in and we do our part. So Mueller comes out and he basically says what he's already said. He's not sharing any new information. And the Democrats are like, okay, well, oh, he's definitely, it doesn't matter what, he could have said anything, and they would have said, impeachment, calls for impeachment. They don't stop. They don't stop. They will not stop it. So this puts us as a country in a position where we have to really decide what we're going to do. Are we going to vote or are we not? Because if we don't, this is going to continue. I'm telling you, the Democrats get control of the House again, this is going to continue. And I don't like the Democrats either, trust me. But if we don't vote for somebody for something to change, if we don't vote Republican, then at least if we vote Republican, at least Trump can do something about this deep state and knock them out. There'll be one less swamp that we have to deal with. Then we can turn around and look at some of these other issues. Look at some of the other things that are going on. Kind of deal with those bigger problems. But we can't if we don't take care of this. So when you look at the news, when you look at politics, and you see the same thing is happening abroad too, because the same thing is happening in the EU, where, Italy and France and Britain and was it Poland, as they got fed up and they said, we're not going to deal with this kind of sort of Marxist globalism. We want our own people to be represented. And so they formed, conservative coalitions. And they said, we're going to go, and the Brits voted Brexit. And the other people voted their nationalist populist parties. And they said, we're going to now stop this from happening again. Because we know that you're not here representing us. You're just flooding our countries with immigrants. And no, the reason we don't want the immigrants is not because we're racist. So stop calling us racist. And that's always what they love to do. Because it works. They slander you. They immediately slander you. Oh, you're racist. And they know what they're doing, but they still do it. Because they know that it works. They know that most people are asleep. They're not paying attention. It's an easy way to get through it. They don't want to have real conversations. They don't want to look at the statistics. They're not going to look at the statistics. They are not going to listen. They will use every trick in the book to hold on to power. Look at how much of a hard time they gave Britain to try to get out of the EU. Horrific time. Their prime minister resigned because she was a globalist. Some of these other globalists are still in power. Marie Le Pen's trying to get Macron out of office. And for good reason. These people are globalists. They get elected based on lies to the people. The people turn around and they're frustrated. You see the Yellow Vests, for example. They've been protesting for over 6 months. The police have started attacking them. They kind of find all these reasons to be more violent, to attack the people, because they're not going to let go of power. But you see it abroad now. You see it in the EU. People are starting to step up, and they're starting to say enough is enough. But we need to educate ourselves to do something about it. All right, guys, that's all I really have for today. I kind of just wanted to share some more thoughts, share some more ideas. I want to post a video like this at least once a day, just to kind of talk about these things, get a conversation going of some sort. So if you guys like the video, hit the comment, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon so that you're notified the next time we post a video that goes live. And also, any comment that you guys put in the comment section, any kind of questions, any kind of, any statements that you guys want to make, any engagement we have tells YouTube it's a good video, and they'll share it with more people. And so, I'd love to hear what you guys think for that reason, but also just kind of have some engagement, kind of get an idea of where you guys are, or what you guys think about this kind of stuff. So yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Everyone have a good one and take it easy. See ya.